It is Thursday, the 9th of June, 2022. Good morning, I'm Pearson Bowen. This is the CBC Morning Report. Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Amor Motley, is pleading the case of smaller island states that are struggling to deal with what she termed as a triple crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic. Ms. Motley made the comments last evening as she addressed the Summit of Americas in Los Angeles prior to a bilateral meeting with Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Ms. Motley says Barbados is dealing with the real-world impacts of climate change at the same time as COVID-19 and rising fuel and food prices.
This is a triple crisis that we faced in the last few years. The common thread of the existential crisis of climate, we know that, we live it, we face it. The crisis of the pandemic, and we're not only dealing with COVID-19, but at the same time the reality that we're not getting people to invest in the antimicrobials resistance that we need to stop the 1.2 million people that are dying every year directly or 5 million indirectly. And now we add to that regrettably the food and fuel crises that have literally started with the supply chain disruption in the pandemic but exacerbated significantly with the war in Ukraine. And when you add to that, then you look at potentially the risk to a debt crisis and a financial crisis. So that the world, as Bob Marley would say, so much trouble in the world.
Well, the Prime Minister also mentioned the escalating problem of antimicrobial resistance in this part of the world, which renders some life-saving medications and treatment ineffective and kills 1.2 million people every year. She suggested that leaders will have to think outside the box to find some of the solutions.
The problem is, when you're spending money on climate, when you're spending money on recovery from natural disasters or the pandemic, there's nothing left to help educate or provide health care or do the other things that go into the sanitation. So we look forward to seeing how we can think out of the box. We don't expect things to change immediately, but what we expect is fairness, what we expect is transparency, what we expect is that just as we want to see people, hear people, and feed people, that we want people to see, feel, and hear us as well.
Well, the Prime Ministers of Barbados and Canada are co-chair of the UN Secretary General's Special Advocates Group on Sustainable Development Goals, and Mr. Trudeau says he's looking forward to working with Ms. Motley again.
We know that those Sustainable Development Goals faced a significant setback because of COVID-19 and the global pandemic, but at the same time, they've become more important than ever before in terms of moving forward and supporting people. So I'm really looking forward to exchanging with you on all these topics and more on how our friendship between Canada and Barbados and CARICOM and the entire region can continue.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, believes the ongoing Summit of the Americas will not accomplish many of the goals owing to the non-participation of several countries in the region. Dr. Gonsalves himself has boycotted the summit owing to that non-inclusion of some nations.
The United States government has made an error. It is true that they have rolled back recently some of the more egregious follies put in place by the Trump administration in relation to Cuba. But those were done unilaterally, and they don't even take us back to the Obama period. And I was there in Panama when President Raul Castro of Cuba was there. Even when President Trump was in office, Cuba was invited to the summit in Peru. Now we're rolling back the clock in a way which we ought not to. We should have conversations. We have conversations with everyone. We can't be fighting, as President Obama had said, old 20th century battles in the 21st century.
Is the region now divided, do you think?
No, I think that it's really what is a tactical approach. There are several heads of government from CARICOM who have gone there to Los Angeles, and they will make their voice heard for the principle of inclusion. It's just that I think that the matter is so large a principle that we ought not to have gone rather than going there and, in a sense, protesting the exclusion of Cuba, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and Nicaragua. Look, migration is supposed to be a big issue. How are you going to have conclusions about migration when Cuba is not there, when the president of Mexico is not there, when the president of Honduras is not there? I don't see how that's possible. You'll have to have subsequent discussions. So what are you going to have in Los Angeles? A photo op and some general statements?
This is the CBC Morning Report. We'll take a break here. When we come back, our focus is on the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 death toll in Barbados has risen to 467 after 2 more women passed away from the virus. One of the women, 77 years old, was vaccinated. She died on Tuesday, while the other, aged 90, passed away yesterday, Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Basto Santos Public Health Lab identified 178 new COVID-19 cases, 66 males and 112 females from the 826 tests conducted on Tuesday. Of the positive cases, the bulk, 131, were in the 18 years and older category. Belize has not recorded any reports of children having adverse reactions since the country's launch of the pediatric COVID-19 vaccine for children on Monday for ages 5 to 11. In fact, from all indications, so far the vaccine has been widely welcomed.
The vaccination of Belize's youngest citizens, children ages 5 to 11, has so far been well received, and today, on the 3rd day, when we visited St. Joseph's RC Primary School in Cotton Tree Village, parents of the 150 or so students who fall within that category have also supported the vaccination drive overwhelmingly.
The parents have been very supportive and receptive to taking the vaccine now. When we had the first stage, they were a bit hesitant because of the knowledge about the vaccine and whether they should take it or not. But now with information being sent out, we send out information in Spanish and English because we have immigrants among us. So for them to get that information and be able to be informed and make that right decision.
Present to assist with the process was Dr. Nympha Ken, an internist with the Ministry of Health who is working with the COVID-19 vaccination program. She says that parents' response to the vaccine in the Cayo district has been positive.
Parents come with the kids and they get their vaccines, and then we observe them for a period of time, and so far we have had no kind of any adverse reaction.
Parents from 2 separate households, Deidra Rekenia and Hugo Barcenas, had different reasons why they were initially reluctant to have their children vaccinated. But today, both parents decided to let their boys receive the first dose.
So I did feel that it was important for him to get it, especially how he's already doing face-to-face, schooling back again.
Well, schools across Guyana will remain closed during the summer vacation as per normal. This has been confirmed by the Education Minister, Priya Manik-Chand. Plans were to have schools open to make up for learning loss owing to the COVID-19 pandemic.
She says after consulting with teachers, the decision was taken to close schools as per normal in early July and reopen at the start of September.
Anything we do, as you know, takes into consideration the views of all the stakeholders. And while there are some teachers who are telling us very, very strongly that we need to do this because we need to recapture the time to get back some time, there are enough teachers telling us they don't want to do it, and that we respect that, and we're going to try to make sure we comply with and do what is best for all the stakeholders involved, particularly the students and the teachers.
Meanwhile, Minister Manik Chan says some teachers have expressed their willingness to work with students during the holiday season, especially those preparing for examinations.
There are going to be some teachers who ask students to come back in, especially exam classes. And that happens every year, outside and inside of COVID, where people try to finish the syllabus, do labs, do extra work, do exam papers and so on in the holiday time. And we're not stopping that.
Manik Chan says the ministry will soon launch mass reinforcement lessons that will be aired on the Ghana Learning Channel and the ministry's radio station. The lessons will be available to students in the nursery, primary and secondary levels with mechanisms in place to monitor progress.
Coming up at 6:30 on Morning Barbados, as we are in the hurricane season, we'll be reminding you of things you need to do, and we want you not to forget the pets and livestock. And so we'll spend some time looking at that and what you should put in place to ensure their safety as well. Also, we'll be talking a little bit more about the Windrush and the call for reparations, and Badilaria will join us to talk more about that. Plus some very enterprising young people, one of who is a spoken word artist who has written her book, Hurricane, to look at the massive contribution of powerful women across our time and our landscape. So that's coming up at 6:30 on Morning Barbados. We'll take a break right here, and the morning report continues right after. There is an appeal from government to corporate Barbados to help with job attachments, machinery and training space. This as there are predictions of a major construction boom across the island this year and thousands expressing interest in becoming skilled tradesmen and women. Sharika Griffith now reports.
Since its rollout in April, the Barbados Construction Gateway Initiative has received more than 2,700 applicants. To date, 341 people have been accepted into the first cohort to learn disciplines such as plumbing, carpentry, and photovoltaic roof fitting. Education, Technical and Vocational Training Minister Kay McConney said the majority of applicants were unemployed individuals, but to her surprise, a significant number have also been people with part or full-time jobs.
We now have to figure out how do we address the matter of those persons who have applied, who are employed fully or who are part-time employed. And the intention, and I have to say this quite openly, is while we are turning no one away, I want you to understand that we will have to give priority to those persons who are committed to entering the construction industry immediately after and who have been able to demonstrate that.
Minister McConney was speaking during a presentation of more than 100 toolkits by Carter's and Company Limited. The students receiving the kits will be allowed to keep them once they complete their training. Marketing Director of Carter's, Brian Hurley, says the gateway is timely given concerns about the shortage of skilled tradespeople. He says it also presents Carter's with an opportunity to give back to a sector that has supported it for many years.
I'm sure that we can appreciate that after 2 years of uncertainty caused by the ongoing pandemic, that many individuals who may wish to join this program could find it challenging to secure the funds to purchase the necessary tools for the program. It is with this in mind that we are here this morning. With our sincerest pleasure, we are pleased to make a presentation of 160 purpose-designed toolkits for the various courses at a value of 75,000 Barbados dollars to assist with this program.
And Minister McConney is hoping others in corporate Barbados will follow Carter's example by providing not only job attachments and eventually job offers, but also machinery and space to facilitate training.
One of the things that's constraining the expansion of the Construction Gateway program is that of space. Recognize that when we are doing training such as, for example, bricklaying and plastering, when the students construct those structures, it isn't something they can knock down tomorrow. It is something that will have to remain there until the end of their course, when they will be assessed on their skill and they will be able day after day to build on what they're learning from day to day.
Over 3,000 new construction workers will be trained over the next year in 8-week or 12-week courses through the program. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Sharika, thank you. Well, Barbadians still have not made the necessary adjustments to their building and renovation practices to prevent devastation if the island is hit by another hurricane or other natural disaster event. And the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers is not happy about this. Lisa Broom reports.
The 2022 Atlantic hurricane season officially began on June 1st. And with Alex, the first of 21 named storms already having passed, leaving a few deaths and some damage in its wake in Bermuda and Florida, the calls for Barbados to be prepared continue to ring out. But even after last year's shakeup from Category 1 Hurricane Elsa and the freak storm, it appears the calls have largely fallen on deaf ears. President of the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers, Lieutenant Colonel Trevor Brown, says there's room for improving resiliency given the real possibility of serious hazard damage to the island.
Even given all the other circumstances that government finds itself having to face with, if we were to be hit with a really serious storm, it would be so devastating that it's difficult it will be difficult for us to really put enough emphasis on the kind of mitigating plans that we need to put in place for hurricanes.
Now, he does admit that some work has been done, pointing to the Planning and Development Act, part of which was proclaimed last year.
Events are far more traumatic, happening in places where they haven't happened in a recent past, and with far more veracity. We have to be prepared in Barbados. It is just that last year was a wake-up call in our books, and really it is a hint to us to get our house in order.
Lieutenant Colonel Brown says they've seen some positive movement at the level of the homeowner, but even that is not widespread enough.
There are some Barbadians who have been installing hurricane straps, who have been cleaning up around the surroundings. This is obviously commendable. We actually like this. But in terms of being able to function as a society after a major impact, that requires long-term planning, which is why we have always been talking about the building codes. Building codes provide a minimum standards that would give you a good chance of surviving an expected event. And therefore we've been encouraging this. But we're still behind the ball as far as we're concerned.
The longtime engineer says government is definitely going in the right direction. But for the engineers, it needs to move faster to fully proclaim and enforce the Planning and Development Act going forward.
Lisa Broom there reporting. The European Union will make USB Type-C the universal charger port for all mobile devices, phones, tablets and cameras by autumn of 2024, with laptop devices following suit by the end of 2028. The regulations are likely to be opposed by manufacturers, including Apple, which have developed their own charging port technology.
With so many small electronic devices on the market, there's a constant demand for chargers. Shops like this one in Paris sell the 3 models that are available in the European Union, but soon they'll only need to sell 1, because under new EU rules, manufacturers will have to produce the same standard charger.
It's a very good idea. If something works, then it's better for us. We're here to sell.
The new legislation means that across the European Union, phone chargers and small electronic devices will all have to use the USB-C connector. That means that the micro USB and the Lightning become obsolete. US tech giant Apple had fiercely opposed the idea of a standard charger. The company's devices mainly use its custom-made Lightning connector. Apple said that a universal charger would stifle innovation and create waste, as people would be forced to discard cables. But the EU says that the measure is aimed at reducing waste.
This agreement that we reached today is a very important agreement, which is giving a fairer deal to our consumers. But it is also giving a fairer deal to our environment, because ultimately we are producing between 13,000 to 15,000 tons of electronic waste of chargers that we barely ever use.
The bloc estimates that consumers in Europe spend nearly $3 billion each year on a variety of chargers, so a standard model could make life cheaper as well as simpler for most people.
Economically and environmentally, it makes sense. It suits everyone. It should be done.
If there's a standard charger, we won't have to shop all the time for another one. It's a brilliant idea, and it'll save money.
It's taken the EU a decade to reach an agreement on the universal charger, which will become mandatory in 2024. The bloc is now working on implementing a standard charger for larger electronic devices, including laptops, by 2026.
Let's take a look at sports now. Shea Hope's 12th one-day international century and second in 4 innings went in vain as the West Indies lost the first one-day international against Pakistan by 5 wickets in Multan last evening. Deciding to bat first, Hope's 127 fired the West Indies up to 305 for 8 off their 50 overs. The right-hander faced 134 balls and struck 15 fours and a 6 in a high-quality innings, which formed the basis of the Caribbean side's second 300-run total in as many matches. Shamar Brooks chipped in with a stylish 70 that included 7 fours. Harris Ralph finished with 4 for 77. Well, in reply, Pakistan reached the target of 306 for 5 off 49.2 overs, thanks to 103 from skipper Babar Azam that included 9 fours. The player of the match, Kushdil Shah, ended unbeaten on 41 from just 23 deliveries. Alzari Joseph took 2 for 55. Here are some of the highlights.
Shea Hope with timing down the ground. His timing was impeccable today. Even on a slowish pitch, he was able to find his range throughout the innings down the ground. And that slog sweep is very good with that sweep shot over extra cover. He's coming into his own. This was a terrific catch. Shadab Khan full stretch, left-handed, plucks it out. Got that vital breakthrough. That partnership is really going strong. And Nicholas Puran, he threatened. He threatened with a couple of substantial hits, big hits leg side. He disappeared over the fence, but he got his own back with another shot, one slower into the pitch. Good catch by Kushdil. Got rid of the captain, was looking very dangerous, whereas Shea Hope just went along merrily. He's been beautiful through the offsides, a magnificent 100 in foreign conditions for him. Shadab Khan at the end of his spell got a wicket where Brendan King just too early turning the ball to leg, but it was impressive trail by Shadab. And in the end, that big wicket of Shea Hope removed off the slow one.
steadying of the ship was required. It was ably done by the captain. As he brought up his half century. And then his 100. The only man in ODI history to score 3 consecutive tons on 2 different occasions. And his demise was brought about by Joseph. Top-edged, simple catch by Mayers in the end. It was a spot of bother for Pakistan at this stage. Pakistan was dried up for boundaries, but the experience of Mohammad Reza kept coming in. Another half century to his name. Until that happened, into the pitch, the slow one, top edge straight to the keeper. West Indies would have felt they were into the game at this point until Khushdil Shah turned the tide onto West Indies. 3 blistering strokes for 6s. At the receiving end was Romario Shepherd. 3 different strokes, 3 different areas. Shadab, on the other hand, didn't manage to connect any. Until another slow one caused that wicket to fall. Khushdil Shah again, some pretty clever cricket from him in the middle. And it was that stroke, a master stroke again from Nawaz, to seal the victory for Pakistan in fine fashion.
Well, the second fixture of the 3-match series is tomorrow. Let's take a look at weather conditions now as predicted by the Met Office here in Barbados. Today, at the moment, it's 26.9 degrees Celsius under fair skies with a slight haze. The humidity is at 80%. The barometric pressure is 13.6 millibars. The winds are quite cool, coming from the east at 30 kilometers an hour. If you're heading to the beach today, expect a low tide at 5:32, 28 minutes to 6 this evening. We'll have a high tide scheduled at 29 minutes to midday. The second high tide is scheduled for 8 minutes to midnight this evening. Seas today are predicted to be smooth to moderate in open water, swells ranging from 1 to 2 meters, but they are expected to increase. In the forecast for Barbados today, a mix of sunshine and clouds with a few brief scattered light showers. Across the island tonight, expected to be a mix of clear skies and clouds with a few intermittent scattered light showers. And here's a look at some forecast conditions across the rest of the world. In London, a high of 20, Frankfurt 21, Miami 30, scorching as always, Montreal 16, Boston's high 25, New York 27, and Toronto, Canada 19. And that's it for today's edition of the CBC Morning Report. I'm Pearson Bowen. Morning Barbados starts now.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, 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 morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
Indeed, good morning, good morning, good morning to you. It's Thursday the 8th of June, is it? No, it's Thursday the 9th of June 2022. Where's the time going? It's going literally so quickly, but it's good to have you company. I'm Pearson Bowen. Welcome to Morning Barbados. Welcome to our beautiful shores. Welcome to what we do as Barbadians. Those of you here and those of you everywhere else, thank you for joining us on our YouTube stream and our Facebook streams as well. Remember, our Facebook page is Morning Barbados. Like us there, interact with us there as well. Watch the show yet again there too. So it's Thursday today, and there was recently the launch of the Barbados Youth Climate Action Fund and Summit and Expo. What happened? My producer Nadia Foster, she got a chance to interact with some people, and so we'll show you what she experienced. So look out for that coming up today. It's Thursday, and typically we like to share with you some very exceptional young people, one of who is a very strong spoken word artist, and she has written her book, launched at just the age of 22, and her book is Hurricane. She's looking at the contribution of our females across the island and what they've been able to achieve, and so we can't wait to hear from her what's in the pages of the book, and hopefully you get to learn from the experiences of some of these outstanding Barbadian females. We'd also meet another one who is in Jamaica, who is very strong into STEMs, taking the approach to our education to empower ourselves and our children, as well as a new approach. And certainly we want to hear from her, her interest in it, where it was born, and how she's been able to achieve, what she's been able to achieve thus far. This morning, the Reverend Badilari will join with us because we want to talk a little bit about reparations within the Windrush concept and talk. Also today, we'll meet up with a doctor who's going to share with us, a vet as a matter of fact, who wants to talk to us a little bit about how we can prepare our pets for the ongoing hurricane season, which you know started on June the 1st. But let's go straight to the Reverend Badilari, who is a historian, he's also a social activist, and he's also very strong on the Windrush compensation scheme. But good morning to you, Reverend Laria. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. And what about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you for asking. Now, a lot of conversation has been spoken about the Windrush scenario in the UK. For those who may not know what it is exactly, share with us what is this Windrush generation that we've talked about and the call that you're making for reparations.
Well, the Windrush generation scandal, as we would say, started back in 1948 when the ship Windrush Empire left the Caribbean and docked in England in 1948. But that was the beginning of the call from the, let's say, the mother country, that the mother country needs us. And there was a push and pull response to that. The Caribbean was very impoverished by colonialism, and that was the push factor. And the pull factor was that Britain needed to rebuild its economy as a result of the devastation caused by the Second World War. Now, what happened is that this call for the mother country needs you mean that as colonizers, Britain demanded basically that their colonies responded, and we did respond by going to England in large numbers. But Britain, because of the history of colonization and racism in particular, did not want all the people that were coming to England. So there, something happened in 1958, which was called the, let's say, the Notting Hill race riots of 1958. And in 1959, the government of Britain introduced the 1959 Mental Health Act. And that is what the Windrush generation scandal gave rise to that. That's at the foundation of the Windrush generation scandal, the 1959 Mental Health Act.
Why is that? Is it a case where, as a consequence of the act, black people from the West Indies were made to seem to be crazy in a way to get them out? Is that what you're trying to suggest?
Not suggest, that is what happened. The 1959 Mental Health Act had four very key components of it. One is that the police can arrest you from off the streets or from your home and take you to the mental institution unilaterally. If the police arrest you, take you to the mental institution, if you have been arrested and taken to court, the court could send you from the courts straight to the mental institution. If the courts decide to send you to prison, The prison, while you're in prison, you could be transferred from the prison straight to the mental institution. All these were unilateral. The Home Secretary can then use the Mental Health Act once you are in there compulsory, which that was the normal. They can then, the Home Office can send you back to where you were born and therefore strip you of the citizenship that you had as a British citizen or a British what you call.
Yeah. Now, I want to be clear then. So, Britain had a need for labor and other skills. They came to the Caribbean to get that lead. The offer was made to Caribbeans to do so. They plundered our society, took some of the best talents we had to build up their community in the UK. And while there, found it difficult to accommodate those who came from the Caribbean and created therefore this Mental Health Act that made it easier for them to ship us back. Am I reading it correctly?
You are.
Okay. So was it only targeted towards black people or people from the Caribbean, this whole push and move towards the establishment of the Mental Health Act?
Well, yeah, one would say, yes, it was targeted specifically for black people because it was open to the Commonwealth, but the main target was those of us in the Caribbean, not Africa or not, the subcontinent of Asia. It was primarily targeted at Caribbean people.
Why do you think that is? Why were the Caribbean people the only ones who were specifically targeted?
Because we were the easiest. It was, remember, all the, let's say, West Indies countries at the time was primarily colonized by Britain. And we did not have the resources to retain our people. So it was very easy. And remember, not only that, we liked the idea that going to Britain, the streets was paved with gold. That was the idea. And what was very important, person, is that Barbados was the only colony of Britain where you can get a job or your job will be secured before you leave the island. So bus conductors, train guards, this was London Transport, nurses, and people going to work on Lions. The government assisted us pay our passage to go to these jobs that was open, as I said, only to Barbados.
So Barbadians got, I'll use the word, special treatment in some sense.
Special treatment.
All right.
As we at the time would call Little England,
Yes. So here we are now. You're asking for compensation, and if Barbadians were treated differently from the other people of the Caribbean, why are we joining this fight?
Well, we should be leading the fight because this is what happened. In 2017, the Barbados government established a National Task Force on Reparation, 2017. Now that sent a ripple effect to England, Task Force on Reparation, and that was coming out of the World Conference Against Racism that was held in Durban, South Africa. It was called the Conference Against Racism, Racial Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Related Intolerance. The greatest conference the world has ever known. People need to understand the significance of that conference in 2001, when for the first time it was said that the slave trade, chattel enslavement, and colonialism were crimes against humanity. So, resulting from that, Barbados in 2017 established a national task force on reparation. In England, as I said, it had a ripple effect. So what happened? People start to say, wow, this is what happened to us as, through colonialism, not slavery, colonialism.
Yes.
Right? We were victims of colonialism. So it became known as the Windrush generation scandal.
Right.
And in 2018, the Prime Minister, the Honorable Theresa May, apologized to the Commonwealth heads of government in England in 2018. Now, once that apology was made for the crimes against humanity that happened to the Windrush generation people,
yes,
they then set up in 2019 the Windrush compensation scheme, and that is where we are at.
Okay, so being able then to identify who benefits from this compensation, I'm sure this is now where a lot of the work goes, the generations of people who would have been impacted by it. I know that coming up on the 2nd of July, you're going to be having a town hall meeting looking at that. How are you going about finding out who benefits, and what do you expect then at this town hall meeting?
Very important, person. Thank you very much for that. On the 2nd of July, we will be in this conference, and we have asked the Ministry of Culture through the NCF to work with us on that, and they have agreed to support it. We have also asked the Ministry for People's Empowerment and Elder Affairs, because of the significance of the people who are evicted, to help us to have this meeting on the 2nd of July. I've also written to at least 4 different ministries that should be playing a key role in helping Barbadians. And remember, this is a Caribbean or CARICOM initiative.
Yes.
It's not simply a Barbadian. So we have asked them to do that. And what we will be doing is, people, we expect, because of COVID protocols, we are going to cater for 50 persons. And we are asking people to phone and make their reservation for the conference. Lunch will be provided for persons attending, because we chose the timing so that a lot of elder people do not like being out after 6 o'clock.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So by 4:30 we should wrap up. But at that town hall meeting, people will be informed in great detail of the importance of making a claim, and we hope to set in place, someone who would guide them through the process, because we are a lazy people when it comes to claiming what is ours. So we want to encourage people. Look, the thing about it is that if you have a relative that passed away, you can, as a child or grandchild, you can claim on their behalf and get the money. It is estimated that between $10,000 and $100,000, pounds, can be
the compensation. All right. So it's on July the 2nd. You said you can call, and because you're only reserving space for about 50 people in person, and others will be online, but they need to call to register. What number should they call?
The numbers are 428
Yes.
8273, or the cell phone number is 265-8849.
All right, 428-8273 or 265-8849. 428-8273 or 265-8849. It's on the 2nd of July at the Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre in Queen's Park. What time is it expected to begin?
It starts at 1:30, but
1:30.
1 o'clock to 4:30.
Yeah. The earlier you are, the better.
Yeah, and what is also very important, Professor, is that I have written 4 books to put this whole thing into context. 3 of the books are on Amazon, and the next one will be on Amazon by the end of June, hopefully for the July meeting.
That book is called Against the Edge, Patient or Prisoner. And certainly as we learn more about the Windrush generation, we learn more about our families who've been there in England, who have been made to feel as if they were mad. And now we know that the UK has a promise to compensate for such atrocities. Then we need to know more. We need to know who they are. We need to know more what processes we should follow. All of that will be revealed on the 2nd of July in the Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre, beginning at about 1 in the afternoon until about 4:30 or thereabouts. Only 50 people in person. The rest will convert online. I'm sure more details will come as the date draws closer as to how we can all witness it online and engage in the discussion. But you can also get the book Against the Edge, Patient or Prisoner. Which were we? And it's by Badilari. It's available on Amazon soon, but the others are available on Amazon now. So, Reverend Badilari, I want to thank you so very much for joining us. This conversation has to continue because it's a very good conversation and one that we all need to know about to find out how we can actually benefit from what was bad way to say it, benefit from what happened to our ancestors, but also to see how we can agitate for further compensation and reparations. Thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure.
God bless.
Likewise, Morning Barbados continues right after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So how are you doing with your preparations for the hurricane season in terms of preparing for your own personal safety, the safety of your pets and your livestock? How are you doing? What are some of the things you need to be paying closer attention to? We're happy to be joined this morning by Dr. Krista Gallagher, who is Associate Professor of Veterinary Public Health and Epidemiology. Good morning to you, Professor.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining with us. Now, June the 9th, we are already in the hurricane season. We are in the Atlantic Ocean. And certainly, we are first up for any system moving across the Atlantic. So we need to be doubly prepared for what we can expect. I want to look at it from the 3 points: people, pets, and livestock in terms of advice for preparations. Where do we start when it comes to people? What are some of the things we need to pay closer attention to so that we are ready?
Absolutely. I think the first consideration, the very place that we start is to really think about keeping pets healthy. So that entails, taking care of them well, proper veterinary care. That's where it all starts, because a healthy pet is going to be stronger and more resilient in the face of these challenges, including things like hurricanes, unfortunately. And then certainly from there, there are a lot of steps that we can take as pet owners or livestock owners to prepare for these types of emergencies. And the first one that I would say is to formulate a disaster plan. So a lot of people talk about developing plans for their families, and we want to ensure that we always think of pets as well as part of that disaster plan. So people, often have to decide if they're going to remain at their home for some sort of big storm that might be forecasted. And if it is not safe to remain in a home, then people decide to maybe go to a shelter or a family and friends. And we just want to make sure that people think about their pets in these situations. If it's not safe for you to stay at your home, it's not safe for your pet to stay. And they certainly are very vulnerable. They rely on us, so we want to make sure we plan for them. So that's the first thing.
One of the things we think of when it comes to safety is security in terms of a leash battening you down because we don't want you flying around, running around or anything. Is that necessarily the best approach in the midst of a hurricane where everything around you is just almost chaos? Is that the best approach to take with your pets?
So generally, again, providing for their safety and their wellness, we ideally would like to house our small animals, our dogs and our cats, inside with us, generally even in the same room and the safest room in the house. And we recommend a few things. I mean, certainly it is always a good idea to have a crate, so some sort of crate or container for your pet that's safe that they can go into, and certainly thinking about having on hand a leash and a collar with identification to keep them, because they often are very scared. We don't want them, roaming away. So you're absolutely on the right course there. We want to keep them safe and inside.
Right. Indoor pets, that's the more friendly ones that we love to hug and keep close. Then there are some pets that we cannot hug and keep close because they're better outside. How do we treat those pets?
So those generally, if we're talking about our horses or our livestock, for those involved in farming, we have a little bit different considerations for them. For the most part, unless they're in an area that's very prone to flooding, we're going to keep them typically on the property. So you want to do things in preparation, certainly checking perimeter fences and making sure that animals are going to remain on the property and safe and secure. We want to go around and check and make sure there's no debris that could become missiles and essentially flying around and potentially injure an animal. Really fortifying structures as far as the same thing we do for our house, you would want to do for a barn or an animal structure, doing plywood over windows, things like that. And really just kind of thinking ahead of time for food and water to make sure that you have enough food for days, that you have clean water, filling water troughs to the very top. We don't want animals that live outside to drink flood water, because that water can be often contaminated with sewage or chemicals. So we want to make sure we provide them with good water.
Listening to you, you're suggesting to me to treat the animals the way I would treat to myself, because the same things that I would want for my sustenance and safety in the hurricane or storm, we should also want for our livestock and our pets. So if we use it as one rule of thumb, then we will do what we need to do to make sure that our pets and our livestock are also protected at that time, which is stock up on medication, as I would for myself. Stock up on your animals and pets and medication as well. Ensure that my surroundings are safe and that no missiles can blow about to cause me harm. Same thing applies to the animals, the pets and the livestock, and on and on. But one of the things that I do is I would ensure I have insurance, that if I need to, I can be replaced or things can be replaced. Should we take the same route with our livestock and pets?
Certainly that is something to consider. different places and different areas are going to have, certain, I couldn't really speak on all the insurance, but it certainly is something to think in mind to the utmost in preparedness. Yeah. What happens if you have to replace structures or things that animals rely on? So that certainly would be very good pre-planning.
If I have a pet that is a healthy pet, is all well and good with me. It's easier because it knows what to do. If I have a pet that is not as healthy at the moment because it's under some kind of medical attention, yes, preparing in terms of having adequate stocks of medication is critical. But if it needs to get to the vet, if it needs veterinary supervision, what do I do?
So, I mean, that certainly gets back to the first point, doing all that you can to maintain pets' health. So not waiting too long when there are health issues that come up with your pet. Best to address them as soon as possible before they potentially progress, and certainly before we are under threat of storm. So that really is something to keep in mind. And then certainly your veterinarian will work with you and maintain the health of that pet and do what is ever necessary. So that really is a foundation that we need to think about.
I like one of the tips that you give is to prepare my own state of mind. I myself must be ready, not just for myself, but for my pets, which are an extension of who I am. You know, their pets have become our friends. We treat them almost as if they're human. And if we're going to do so for another living, standing on 2 feet person, we have to do so for our full-footed animals and pets as well. So in planning, have a plan for your pets and your livestock as well. One of the things that we would plan for is if we have to resort to shelter, if we have to move immediately to shelter, what plan do I put in place then for my horse, my dogs, if I have to move to shelter?
Right. Again, for our small animals, we always want to think about taking them with us, if possible, to a shelter. So the best thing is to check shelters out ahead of time and see if they allow pets. So that's the best case scenario. And then there are other shelters that may just have animals. So try to plan for that. If that is not possible, then certainly thinking about a family or friend that could take your whole family, including a pet. Now you're right, the larger animals, our cattle, our horses are not going to be able to generally go to shelters. So having someone who could be responsible for their care in your absence is going to be the best plan. So again, all of this really takes some forethought and some planning, and that really is key.
So plan the same way we would plan for self, plan for your pets and your livestock as well. They are, after all, our responsibility, but they're also our property. And as a consequence, we have to do what we have to do to make sure that they are safe, because our problem could become somebody else's bigger problem. So let's just make sure that we don't create an issue for anyone else, but we keep them safe and sound in the time of hurricane and storms. So it means that now, anyone who's a pet lover, who has pets, who have a livestock, we need to start thinking. We need to change our whole mindset and start focusing on what do I do if I'm told that there's a storm upon our doorstep that we need to prepare for.
Absolutely. And here at Ross Vet, that is something we take very seriously. The hurricane season, even before the start of the hurricane season, we start planning. That's a good reminder to start your planning. We have a hurricane prep team, for example, that prepares our colleagues, our students, and their pets, and our campus animals for emergencies like this, including certainly hurricanes, which we think of very commonly. So it really is a culture here at Ross Vet. And I would certainly recommend that we think about that culture of preparedness and getting in that mindset.
Absolutely. I have to leave it there. Dr. Krista Gallagher, thank you so much for joining us with sage advice on how we can manage better our pets and livestock along with ourselves in the event of a hurricane or some other natural disaster. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
You're very welcome too. We'll take a break right here on Morning Barbados, and we're coming back with more in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We're a minute after 7 o'clock now. Let's bring you up to date on the news. The Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Amor-Motley, is pleading the case of small island nations that are struggling to deal with what she termed a triple crisis amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister made the comments last evening at the Summit of the Americas in Los Angeles, United States, prior to a bilateral meeting with Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Ms. Motley says Barbados is dealing with the real-world impact of climate change at the same time as COVID-19 and rising fuel and food prices.
This is a triple crisis that we faced in the last few years. The common thread of the existential crisis of climate, we know that, we live it, we face it. The crisis of the pandemic, and we're not only dealing with COVID-19, but at the same time the reality that we're not getting people to invest in the antimicrobials resistance that we need to stop the 1.2 million people that are dying every year, directly, or 5 million indirectly. And now we add to that preventively the food and fuel crises that have literally started with the supply chain disruption in the pandemic, but exacerbated significantly with the war in Ukraine. And when you add to that, then you look at potentially the risk to a debt crisis and a financial crisis. So that the world, as Bob Marley would say, so much trouble in the world.
Ms. Motley also mentioned the escalating problem of antimicrobial resistance in this part of the world, which renders some life-saving medications and treatment ineffective and kills 1.2 million people every year. She suggested that leaders have to think outside the box to find some of the solutions.
The problem is, when you're spending money on climate, when you're spending money on recovery from natural disasters or the pandemic, there's nothing left to help educate or provide health care or do the other things like water and sanitation. So we look forward to seeing how we can think out of the box. We don't expect things to change immediately, but what we expect is fairness, what we expect is transparency, what we expect is that just as we want to see people, hear people, and feel people, that we want people to see, feel, and hear us as well.
Well, the Prime Ministers of Barbados and Canada are co-chair of the UN Secretary General's Special Advocates Group on Sustainable Development Goals, and Prime Minister Trudeau says he's looking forward to working with Ms. Motley again.
We know that those Sustainable Development Goals faced a significant setback because of COVID-19 and the global pandemic. But at the same time, they've become more important than ever before in terms of moving forward and supporting people. So I'm really looking forward to exchanging with you on all these topics and more on how our friendship between Canada and Barbados and CARICOM and the entire region can continue.
And the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, believes the ongoing Summit of the Americas will not accomplish many of its goals owing to the non-participation of several countries in the region. Dr. Gonsalves himself has boycotted the summit owing to the non-inclusion of those countries.
The United States government has made an error. It is true that they have rolled back recently some of the more egregious follies put in place by the Trump administration in relation to Cuba. But those were done unilaterally, and they don't even take us back to the Obama period. And I was there in Panama when President Raul Castro of Cuba was there. Even when President Trump was in office, Cuba was invited to the summit in Peru. Now we are rolling back the clock in a way which we ought not to. We should have conversations. We have conversations with everyone. We can't be fighting, as President Obama had said, old 20th century battles in the 21st century.
Is the region now divided, do you think?
No, I think that it's really what is a tactical approach. There are several heads of government from CARICOM who have gone there to Los Angeles, and they will make their voice heard for the principle of inclusion. It's just that I think that the matter is so large a principle that we ought not to have gone, rather than going there and, in a sense, protesting the exclusion of Cuba, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and Nicaragua. Look, migration is supposed to be a big issue. How are you going to have conclusions about migration when Cuba is not there, when the president of Mexico is not there, when the president of Honduras is not there? I don't see how that's possible. You'll have to have subsequent discussions. So what are you going to have in Los Angeles? A photo op and some general statements?
Well, there's an appeal from government to corporate Barbados for help with job attachments, machinery and training space. This, as there are predictions of a major construction boom across Barbados this year and thousands expressing interest in becoming skilled tradesmen and women. Sharika Griffith reports.
Since its rollout in April, the Barbados Construction Gateway Initiative has received more than 2,700 applicants. To date, 341 people have been accepted into the first cohort to learn disciplines such as plumbing, carpentry, and photovoltaic roof fitting. Education, Technical and Vocational Training Minister Kay McConney said the majority of applicants were unemployed individuals, but to her surprise, a significant number have also been people with part or full-time jobs.
We now have to figure out how do we address the matter of those persons who have applied, who are employed fully or who are part-time employed. And the intention, and I have to say this quite openly, is while we are turning no one away, I want you to understand that we will have to give priority to those persons who are committed to entering the construction industry immediately after and who have been able to demonstrate that.
Minister McConney was speaking during a presentation of more than 100 toolkits by Carter's and Company Limited. The students receiving the kits will be allowed to keep them once they complete their training. Marketing Director of Carter's, Brian Hurley, says the gateway is timely given concerns about the shortage of skilled tradespeople. He says it also presents Carter's with an opportunity to give back to a sector that has supported it for many years.
I'm sure that we can appreciate that after 2 years of uncertainty caused by the ongoing pandemic, that many individuals who may wish to join this program could find it challenging to secure the funds to purchase the necessary tools for the program. It is with this in mind that we are here this morning. With our sincerest pleasure, we are pleased to make a presentation of 160 purpose-designed toolkits for the various courses at a value of 75,000 Barbados dollars to assist with this program.
And Minister McConney is hoping others in corporate Barbados will follow Carter's example by providing not only job attachments and eventually job offers, but also machinery and space to facilitate training.
One of the things that's constraining the expansion of the Construction Gateway program is that of space. recognize that when we are doing training such as, for example, bricklaying and plastering, when the students construct those structures, it isn't something they can knock down tomorrow. It is something that will have to remain there until the end of their course, when they will be assessed on their skill, and they will be able day after day to build on what they're learning from day to day.
Over 3,000 new construction workers will be trained over the next year in 8-week or 12-week courses through the program. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Well, that's a look at news until now. We'll have more news coming up at 12 noon. We'll take a break here, and Morning Barbados continues right after.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So, time for us to have a little bit of fun. I haven't spoken to you face to face, voice to voice in so long, but I'd like to do that now. I'd like you to call me on 228-5562 or 228-5563 because I have something to show you. And I want you to tell me exactly where it is. So take a look at this photograph and tell me where it is. But you must call me on 228, almost dead giveaway, 228-5562 or 228-5563. Let's see how well you know this beautiful island of ours. Call me now. Guess the location. 228-5562 or 228-5563. Let's see if you know where this is. And perhaps you'd have to go by this to know where it is. And if you've not been in that area, guess still. 228-5562 or 228-5563, the numbers to call to tell me, where is this? Look at it. Look good. You know, sometimes we whiz by and we don't stop to look, but that's somewhere in Barbados, but I want you to tell me where it is. Let's get to the phone. Good morning to you. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Time to rise and shine. Hello.
Good morning, Pearson.
I'm not hearing anybody. I hope you're hearing me. If you are hearing me, just be persistent. Just be patient too. 228-5562 or 63. We want to know from you, where is this? What location is this?
Good morning, Pearson.
There you are. What a breath of fresh air. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. What about you?
I'm doing well, thank you for asking. You know my questions. What
Yes,
parish are you
please.
watching us from?
St. Michael?
St. Michael, down the road from me or a little further out?
A little further out.
All right, fair enough. Where is this?
This looks like by NCF.
It looks so?
Yes.
By the NCF?
NCF.
That's your final answer?
Yes, please. Final answer.
That is the wrong final answer.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes, you're wrong.
Okay,
thank you so much
you.
for trying. You too. Have
All
a good day.
right.
Thank you for watching us. Indeed. 228-5562 or 228-5563. So, one wrong. Let's see if we can get a right answer quickly. 228-5562 or 228-5563. Good morning to you. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
How are you? Your throat a little funny this morning?
Yes, it is.
Oh, dear. What happened?
Sinuses.
Oh, you did Sahara dust?
Yes, please.
So what are you going to do about it?
Well, there's nothing to be done because don't care what you take, it's not getting better.
And you can't
Just
stop
gotta wait
breathing,
it out.
right? Yeah, I know. What parish are you watching us from?
Christchurch.
Cheryl Ann?
Pardon?
Is this Cheryl Ann?
No, please.
Shoot, you sound so much like her. But if you're in Christchurch, let me hear, where is this?
In Rendezvous Hill.
You sure?
Yes, please.
Oh, really now? You live anywhere in the area?
Not too far.
So you walk this real spot of the road or something?
Every day.
And you pass this?
Yes, please.
Every day?
Every day.
You don't take a different route?
No, please.
You're a creature of habit. That's your problem. But you're right. It is indeed on Rendezvous Hill, and it's marking some of our iconic people in the parish indeed. So thank you so very much. What's your first name?
Nicola.
Hello, Nicola. Good to meet you this morning. Thank you for watching Mornin Barbados, okay?
Thank you, too.
You're very welcome. Nicola there, she's from Christchurch. She's right. It's in Rendezvous Hill. Be careful if you're driving. You can't drive and block the area trying to look at the mural. It's on a hill. But now you know, there it is. That's your shot. That's what you may miss as you whiz by. It's that mural there in Rendezvous Hill. Well done, everybody. Thank you so much. We shall take a break here, and we shall be back with more in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It is 18 minutes now after 7 o'clock. Let's meet some exceptional young people. Let's go first to Jamaica. Jamaica we go. And to meet with this young lady who is a trained science teacher, public speaker, science and technology coordinator, the author of a book, Little Einsteins Saves the Beach. She's also a mother. Good morning to you, Cavell Hilton.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
How was my Jamaican? Jamaica.
It's perfect.
Good. Thank you so very much. So there you are, holding this book, Little Einsteins Save the Beach. What's the book about?
So the book is an epic adventure about 3 kids from the Caribbean, Jamaica. Joshua, who is named after my son, and Joshua visits the beach. On this occasion, though, Joshua sees a seagull with actually plastic in its beak. So he's asking his mom, what is happening? Why is this happening? And so he gets an idea of how to make a difference, and he gets his friends involved, the other little Einsteins, Zion and Bianca. So the book really helps children to learn about, environmental pollution, plastic in particular, plastic pollution. And it also, help them to do experimentation, teach them about critical thinking, and just to be problem solvers, which is what we really need in this generation.
And that's where you're passionate, because as STEM encourages us to be able to apply all of those sources and forces together to solve problems. So which pulls you hardest? STEM teacher, scientist, or author? Which one is your greatest passion?
I think they all work together because I'm really able to express myself in a different way through writing. But at the same time, as an educator, that I'm very passionate about that. I'm able to bring that passion, into the classroom. So I love all of them.
Help us understand what STEM is. We hear it and then we dismiss it because that's for those brainiacs to figure out. But what is STEM? And if we can just move beyond the acronym to real application, explain to us what it is.
So STEM, as you said, move beyond the acronym, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. It's really an approach to education that involves development of critical 21st century skills, such as critical thinking, communication, creativity, right, and problem solving. So STEM really is an approach that can be utilized in any classroom, and it integrates the different disciplines. So for example, in this book, the students are actually trying to solve a problem, and they are actually utilizing the STEM approach. So the science is there, the technology, the engineering, because they actually have to put things together, build something. The math is also there, so they are able to do measurements. And this is something that we definitely want to encourage in our classroom in order to really create critical thinkers and the more critical and problem-solving generation.
I think what scares us are the words science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We go, I don't like those subjects. So right away there's an aversion to it. But you're saying to me it's the application of everyday critical thinking. That's all it is.
Yes.
There's a situation that occurs. How do we resolve this? Does it require us to do a little bit of addition, subtraction? Does it require us to build something? Do we have to tweak something? All of those kinds of things, but it also forces us to have a positive outcome. And that's what the whole approach to STEM is about. How long have you been doing this though? Because you look very young.
I've been doing it for over 12 years.
Wow. For your lifetime almost, indeed. And Joshua, so with all that you've been able to do so far through your teaching, how is Joshua applying what you learned, and are you pleased with this progress?
Yes, I am. He's one of my greatest achievements. He loves the book as well. He was there giving feedback while I was writing the book, reading it and letting me know, yes, Mom, this is working.
Nice.
So, yes, for sure. So, yeah, he's definitely there. And he loves the sciences just the same. All the experiments in the book are applicable. We have tested them ourselves. There is an experiment for students to actually create invisible ink. And this is actually what Joshua uses to communicate with his friends. And so there are so many different experiments involved in the book and application of science. And, there's also background information as to how to do these experiments and why you are actually doing them. And it's something that I definitely want to stress in the education system, because sometimes we just tell students to do this and we don't necessarily tell them how or why.
Yes.
The part about the book I also love is the ending, where Joshua and his friends are actually saying, maybe there's more to this experiment. Maybe there's something else that they can try. And I definitely want to stress the fact that science is dynamic. It's not static. And so you don't necessarily have to get it right the first time, but it's all about, trying and testing and measuring and trying again.
And who knows, you might develop something else out of your trying and
Yes.
getting it wrong. So this book sounds as if I should have it, quite frankly, you know, to try it even at my old age. But it's great that the children really can get this and play. And in playing with it, we discover as we go. It's a new book for children, future scientists as well. It's available, as you say, on Amazon. And certainly we want to encourage people to become little adventurers themselves, you know, like a little scientist, like Einstein, and you can save the beach, you can save whatever. But the whole idea of invisible ink, I like that. I kind of like that a lot. That's why I need to get the book myself to see how to make invisible ink. But I like the fact that it's education, and it's the application of the education that makes education in itself very fun and very real, and it lives. And so this approach is really fantastic. So it's available on Amazon. It's your name. So therefore, once they purchase it, then we work out the shipment details, and it comes to me here. How are sales going? How are sales going?
Well, it's getting there. We are definitely on a roll, and we are hoping to get this to be a bestseller on Amazon. So I'm asking everyone for their support. This is the first in a series, so we are actually creating a STEM series. I've actually completed the second book, which is Little Einstein's Dream Big. And so that will teach children about different STEM careers and how even as a child, you know, they can really make a difference. And the sky is not the limit.
Beyond the sky. You are such an active mother. How do you balance all the time, though? I mean, a young woman, STEM teacher, you're a scientist. How old is Joshua, by the way?
Well, Joshua is 15 years old.
Oh, Josh is a 15-year-old. Listen, and here I am trying to figure out your age now. I'll stop right there.
Yeah.
You know, but this is fantastic. Juggling all of this and getting it done within a particular time space, how are you managing?
Well, I learned very early how to balance, I would say. And Joshua is a true champ. He's great. He is big enough now, so he's able to balance on his own somewhat. So it's. I am also a Wiley I Fellow, and as you mentioned, so that's Young Leaders of the Americas Initiative Fellowship, and I'll actually be traveling to the United States soon to do my internship there for that program. So it's a lot going on.
Yes.
So it's really a balancing act. I'm a mompreneur, a STEMpreneur, an educator. Right. So yes.
That's really fantastic. You're making the best of your life while on earth. Cavell Hilton, it's been wonderful meeting you this morning. I hope that everybody, as quickly as possible, gets onto Amazon and we buy the book. Buy the book. Little Einsteins Saves the Beach. And certainly, this is the first of a series, and next is coming really, really soon. And as you go, the children are getting to apply science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to everyday activity. And it's a great way to stimulate their brains, all of the centers of their brains, all of their creative skills, everything about their full selves. And they become better contributors to society, but also better people in the house. Thank you so much, Cavell. All the best with your future endeavors as well.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
very
you so
welcome.
much for having me. It was
You
my
are
pleasure.
very welcome. Bye-bye indeed. Cavell Hilton is her name. She is the founder and chief executive officer of STEM Builders Learning Hub Limited and the author of the book Little Einsteins Save the Beach. We're going to take a break right here. We're coming back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 29 minutes now after 7 o'clock this Thursday morning, the 9th of June already. It's the 9th day into the Atlantic hurricane season. Hope you're ready. Hope you've done all of your planning. This morning we reminded you to consider your pets and your livestock in your planning, considering their safety and what should happen should you be asked to evacuate, what happens during the system as well. So we're hoping that as you plan, you include them in your plan. We got a, can we share it with them now? Because someone found an ID card pretty near to us. They brought it to us. Look at this face. Do you know this man? Do any of you know this man? We have your ID card, sir. Sir, we have your ID card here at the CBC. And it was found pretty much near to the Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute of Technology, but it's here at the CBC now. So if this is your face, or if you know this face, ask him to contact us here at the CBC. Come pick up your ID card. You need your ID card, and certainly we want to encourage you as much as possible. Help us find this man so that we can reconnect him with his ID card. We have it here at the CBC, and we'd like to return it to him. So sir, if it's your ID card, do come, and because you're going to look like that anyway, so we'll know it's you. So just come and get your ID card. Don't just send someone for it. You come and collect your card so we are sure that we're giving the card to the right person. Found in the area of the Samuel Jackman Institute of Technology, and we found it's been brought to us. We have it here at the CBC. So sir, come get your ID card, and we thank you for responding so quickly and for helping us folks, help us find him so that he can be reconnected with his ID card. More young people to meet. And one up next is a spoken word artist who has written her book. She's 22 years old. She's got a book that is creating quite a stir. It's called Hurricane. Her name is Tafari Steed. Good morning to you, Tafari. Well, she's not quite yet ready. She's a spoken word artist. She's a Barbadian. She's also award winning. And I can't wait to meet with her. She is known as Metallic. You may know her if you know that word. And she is also a recipient of the Irving Bergery Literary Award for Excellence in Literary and Creative Arts, beginning writing at the age of 10. So for the last 12 years or thereabouts, she has been writing, she's been winning, she's been creating, she's been documenting, she has been performing, she has been. And so she too is herself quite a hurricane, H-E-R-R-Hurricane. Hurricane, indeed. She's also a multi-NIFCA awardee, international performer, and a graduate of University of the West Indies Cave campus with a first-class honors degree in literature in English, and she's completing her master's now in the creative arts. We're going to try to get her online really, really soon so we can connect with her and share her story with you. But as we wait to do that, I want to share with you now, if we can do so, the launch of the Barbados. She's almost there. She's just around the corner. She's skirting around the corners for us to interact with her. But don't forget also just to let you know that crop over's on, so you need to be mindful as you get out and about to wear your mask, even though there's a little bit of adjustment to some of the protocols, but you're in open spaces, should wear your mask. You should be able to keep your distance, sanitize, and all of the protocols are still in place. We encourage you to continue to engage with those practices. Please, 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 let's keep our islands as safe as possible this big crop over season. Okay, so soon to come is the launch of the Barbados Youth Climate Action Summit and Expo in partnership with the Division of Maritime Affairs. Can we do this one? The Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, which was launched at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre on the 5th of June, the World Environment Day. My producer Nadia Foster, she was there to cover that event. Can we share it with everyone now? Can we share with everyone what Nadia discovered at the launch of the Barbados Youth Climate Action Summit and Expo? Take a look. So that's coming up in just a moment. Just bear with us, folks, as we work this out. But we're trying to get Miss Teed on the line. We're also trying to bring up to you to share with you what happened at the launch of that, and also continuing to share with you. Get the Lickle Einstein Save the Beach book is available on Amazon. And when you do so, you are engaging with the STEM approach to education. Also want to remind you of that big seminar that's happening with Reverend Buddy Laria on the 2nd of July in the Daphne Hackett Theatre, Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre in Queen's Park. Is on the 2nd of July from 1 in the afternoon, but you need to call. There are only 50 spaces available for people to be there. You need to call 428-8273 or 265-8849. Those are the numbers to call to reserve your space. The rest is going to be online, and it's for the Windrush compensation for those who would have gone off to England as Barbadians or Caribbean people and made to feel as if they've done the wrong thing. There was an apology later on early in 2018 or thereabouts by Theresa May, and so there's compensation. So you're encouraged to be at the Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre on the 2nd of July for that summit, that chance for you to hear more about how you can benefit from compensation. 428-8273 or 265-8849. All right, we'll take a break and we'll come right back with more in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
23 minutes now to go to 8 o'clock. I ask you to bear with us for just a little while while we work things out, but I think we can now share with you what Nadia Foster experienced at the launch of the Barbados Youth Climate Action Summit and Expo on the 5th of June. Let's take a look.
The Barbados Youth Climate Action Summit and Expo launched on Sunday, June 5th on World Environment Day at the Lloyd Erskine Sandifer Center, and Mornin Barbados was specially invited to cover the event. The theme for 2022 is Beyond Talk, More Action, and it was echoed throughout the event.
Beyond talk, what we want?
The summit and expo showed that not only dialogue is to be had, but to see youth more actively engaging in intergenerational dialogues with stakeholders. We hear from Layla Licorice, a 10-year-old environmental activist, the announcement of the Barbados Youth Climate Action Ambassadors, Maria Marshall, Hay Ambassador and UNICEF Youth Advocate, officials, Youth Minister, the Honorable Charles Griffith, and the coordinator of the Barbados Youth Climate Action Summit and Expo and UNICEF Youth Advocate, Ashley Lashley.
Hi, my name's Layla. I feel strongly about the environment. I'm a child and I would like to grow up with clean air, clean ocean, and a healthy environment so plants can thrive. Let's leave this world better than we found it, because there's only one Earth. Beyond talk, more action.
And now we will be introducing the ambassadors of the Barbados Youth Climate Action Summit and Expo.
Naomi Cambridge, Akhenaton Barrows, Shane DJ Rass Edwards, Maria Marshall, Layla Licorice, Dominique Tudor, Renako Bailey, and Jamila Seeley.
So moving on in the agenda now, I would like to call upon one of our youth advocates and ambassadors, Miss Maria Marshall, to offer a few words. Maria?
I'm really happy to have been given this opportunity to speak on this World Environment Day and to share my little thoughts. It is truly an honor and my great pleasure. So back to my original question. What are we going to do? At first, I used to think that there was nothing that could be done until I started to look at the old-time basics of reducing, reusing, recycling, and repairing and repurposing. This repurposing is actually something that Barbadians and Caribbean people have always done, but seems to have stepped away from it in favor of buying new because it is more popular and seems more progressive. I am begging you guys, do not get caught up with consumerism and keeping up with the Joneses and making environmentally unkind choices and greed. The planet can hold us all, but not all of our garbage and all of our bad habits. Certain adjustments may seem strange, but if it is helping the environment, we need to do it. There is no more time. We can't just drink water and mind our business on this one. The water won't be there, and the planet is everyone's business.
What is your approach to tourism? In fact, the Prime Minister asked me that when I first got here. And I said, I think the most important question we haven't asked. And that question is, why are we doing tourism? When we answer that question, the answer is very simple. You do tourism because you want to contribute to the well-being of the people, of your citizens. But when you do that, over the long term, you need to make sure that you protect the assets of your destination. And this is where climate change is becoming so important, because if we don't do that, then at some point, there will be no more tourism, because people won't come, because what this island is known for and what it provides is gone because we haven't taken care of it.
The Honourable Adrian Ford, Minister of Environment and National Beautification, on the occasion of the Stockholm Plus 50 Youth Consultation at the Barbados Hilton on May the 3rd this year, stated our young people are the ones who will lead us over the next 50 years and who will have to address frontally the many global threats, including the triple threat of biodiversity loss, land degradation, and the ever-ominous climate change. I urge all partners here and those who wish to come on board to support our youth in their efforts at environmental advocacy, stewardship, and activism.
We need to get beyond the talk and start to find solutions through action. Youth are clearly at the center of this. We have to galvanize them. We have to get beyond the blah, blah, blah and affect real change. We have to get those reports, those plans off the shelves, and we have to get them implemented.
But we need to have the young people fully on board as you are this evening. And I realize that, 8, 10 ambassadors were awarded this evening. We need to push that. You need actually to move into the schools. You need to move in to the community, all the communities across this country, to push the fact of what is happening as far as climate change is concerned. Last year we were impacted and we are still recovering from the freak storm. Never mind Elsa. Let's look at the freak storm. And I'm suggesting to you that if government is to push it at the macro level, we need to have the young people pushing it at the micro level in every single community across this country. Because your voice will be strongest if you push for this in a way that seniors cannot. And I see the ambassadors and I see all the other youngsters here today, and I want you to work with the youth groups. We have 163 registered youth groups within my ministry, and I want for you to touch every single youth group on this island, pushing the message of the impact of climate change that will impact my grandchildren and your children. And it is the only way that we can spread the word is if we have satellite locations throughout the country, i.e. the young people that are doing this within the schools, within the community. I know that government will continue. You will have our support at every step of the way in order to get the message out. I will make all the resources that are within my ministry available to the foundation and to young people, because obviously the ministry is the ministry of youth. All of the resources that are available within the ministry will be placed at the disposal of every single young person who is pushing this message. It is too important for us to, and the mantra came this evening, more action. And I promise you that within my ministry, you will get the necessary action that is required in order to move this to the next step.
It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you to the launch of the Barbados Youth Climate Action Summit and Expo. The fight for climate justice has energized the members of the Ashton Ashley Foundation to join the world to eliminate public enemy number one, which we know as the climate crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, this dreaded public enemy has eroded some of our beaches, and with the increase in global temperatures will certainly impact negatively on the health of our people, our plants, our animals, including livestock and crops. Our Youth Climate Action Summit and Expo officially begins on July 7th with its Student Climate March, where school students from across Barbados will be marching for climate justice, and little Layla Licorice will be cycling on this day for 30 kilometers to highlight the need for more action. I think you can give her a round of applause. July 8th officially kickstart our Summit and Expo with a focus on 3 main thematic sessions entitled Youth Accelerating Action, Building a Climate Conscious Community, and Resilient Recovery. And there's also an Expo component attached, which will highlight the innovation of many businesses and young people. In order to make climate change or the climate crisis a socially relatable topic, while at the same time focusing on the health of our children and young people, we will also be introducing a climate dance zone. Exciting stuff, I know. July 9th will see many international organizations and local NGOs and businesses hosting a side event, and we anticipate to have more participation from civil society. Our Summit and Expo will see young people engaging in intergenerational dialogues with experts from UNICEF, the United Nations Special Advisor to the Secretary General on Climate Action, Mr. Selwyn Hart, Ugandan climate change activist Vanessa Nate, Mexican climate justice activist Zia Bazada, and many more. We will be planting 100 trees within this initiative in collaboration with the Barbados Trailway, and also in the lead up to the Conference of Parties 27, which will be held in Egypt. We will be hosting multiple youth consultations to present a call to action to the government of Barbados. Finally, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. It is that we are powerful beyond measure, as stated by Nelson Mandela. And I believe that these words are still very powerful and relevant today. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight for climate justice. We shall fight for our oceans and our seas. We shall fight for the growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall demand our small island. We shall defend, our small island. We shall fight for our communities. We shall never, ever surrender to this global enemy called climate change. Beyond talk, more action. Thank you. And again, welcome to the launch of the Barbados Youth Climate Action Summit and Expo. See you on July 7th, 8th, and 9th.
A feature there put together by my producer Nadia Foster at the launch of the Barbados Youth Climate Action Summit and Expo on Sunday gone. Thank you. Well done, Ashley Lashley, and the work you're continuing to do. All right, yesterday, would have been the 95th birthday of now deceased George Lamming, Barbados excellent Barbadian indeed. And yesterday we teased you with a little bit of something that was taken from the BBC archives and his sharing about moving to England and what it means to be a Barbadian, a West Indian living in that space. Let's share with you now his full extract.
George Lamming, 33 years old. The life of a big city suits his temperament. Argumentative, engrossed by ideas, he's at home in London and enjoys the company of what he calls the Hampstead think-talkers. Lamming came to England from Barbados 10 years ago, an England which a character in one of his books describes like this.
In England, nobody notices anybody else. You pass me in the street or sit next to me in the train as if I come from a next planet. Nobody asks questions and nobody gives answers. You see this the minute you put foot in London. The way the house is built was that people don't have nothing to do with one another. You can live and die in your own room and people next door never say boo to you, no matter how long you inhabit that place. It ain't like home as you think. I tell you, you only got to see how their house is built to see what I mean. The walls look hard, they're nasty. At the top, you see all the time smoke coming out the chimney, and only now and then, when a curtain moves back, you tell yourself, somebody living there. And what all you hear going on for the first time is what it means to live in your own room, alone, without knowing a single soul in any of the other 100. The terror of not knowing and of not even daring to call upon a single soul among the 100 who surround him. I think that is the initial experience of the West Indian arriving. However tough he is, for the first time in his whole experience, he is alone. Yeah. But one of the things that one must establish is that this world of isolation is not only different, it's strange. Because what he realizes is that this attitude towards him is an attitude which the English themselves share towards each other. Yes. This business of leaving each other on their own is a national characteristic, as dancing is. Yes. Or laughing.
And quite different from anything that happens in the West Indies.
This is why it is so different.
Yes. Eventually, however, you get settled.
You get settled, and then you too become part of the strangeness. Today, for example, I really don't like being spoken to when I'm traveling in a train.
Do you find that once here, you're writing for a different audience, writing for people in this country rather than for people in the West Indies?
I think the point about audience is that the audience is a world which you are always discovering. As a boy, for example, with a fascination for words, I would put them together, and one's audience then was the mother. You ask, how do you like that? Later, you are fascinated with the idea of being a writer, so you send things to the school magazine. You ask the people around you, is it good enough? Later, you become a writer with the first book, and people pay you attention in the particular country where it is published. The audience has expanded again. Today, I find, after all these stages of development, that the audience I would want to be my most serious audience is the West Indian reader.
Do you go further than this? Do you think that not only our books should make an impact on the West Indies, but they should be about the West Indies?
I think, given the particular situation of the West Indies, they can't be about anything else. You see, one of the peculiar things about the group of people who are called the West Indian writers is that they have come to writing without any native tradition of literature in the area. They have become the voice of a community that has been silent for 3 or 4 centuries. This is the key point. There have been, for me, 3 important moments in the history of the Caribbean. The discovery of the area, the emancipation of the slaves, and the birth of the novel as a form of expressing collective experience.
Do you think that the West Indian novel so far, apart from its relationship to the West Indies itself, has had any importance in any other way?
Yes, it has great importance, I think, from the point of view of the novel as such. For example, it has brought a vitality and a new kind of life to the rhythm of the language itself. You see, most of the West Indian novels are concentrated on the lives of what you would call a peasant majority.
Yeah.
This is its contribution to the area. People who were worth no more than their labor in the past have been situated as personalities among each other by the novel. It is the speech of that peasant man upon which the language of the West Indian novel is based. It is very much like England in the 17th century. It is an agricultural language, and this is its strength, and I think this is its contribution to English fiction today.
You think that English fiction needed this contribution?
It has needed it for a long time.
Develop that a little.
Well, the English novel has always been a middle-class affair, with one or two exceptions. It's written by middle-class people, read by middle-class people. And as you know, the language of the middle class is a strange invention. It is always 3 or 4 moves from the mechanics of feeling. Sometimes you're not even clear where the voice is that is producing the noise, you see. This has had an effect on the language that the people use. It's the same thing in the theatre. You get a little actor who comes from some county or province and something. He gets into the West End, and then he has to do strange things with his tongue if he's going to get a job. He has to rub out all the rhythm and the richness of speech wherever he came from. This has been worming its way through all creative expression in English literature for a long time.
Do you ever think that if this background is a real nourishment to the Caribbean novelists, that you should go back to the West Indies?
Yes, I think it is important that the West Indian writer should be functioning in the West Indies, for the simple reason that it is important that a writer should be functioning in the landscape he's writing about. The question that haunts the West Indian writer is, what exactly is he going back to? You see, he has left a place which he considered a spiritual desert, and he is not at all sure, and he has no evidence that it has changed very much. The incidents of 1938 haven't been followed up, so to speak, so that what he would need, if he were going back, would be the kind of political situation that would bring him back into play. For example, if I were a Cuban, I would not be in London today. I would be in Havana. If you could get a political situation which is badly needed in the West Indies, of that explosive quality, a situation in which all the traditional authorities have been dismantled completely, and you start from scratch, you start from 1938 in a situation of chaos, he would come into his own, and then he would have excellent reason for being back.
This is a very different point of view from the one held by various other West Indian writers, Mittelholzer, for example. Do you think that West Indian writers, on the whole, subscribe to this attitude that you just defined?
I think unconsciously they must. I mean, whether or not they say so. After all, if you read their books, what is quite clear is that they're linked together by the same kind of social experience. In Mittelholzer, it's slavery. In what I consider his best book, A Morning at the Office, it is the enormous tragedy that is built upon difference of complexions. You have slavery, you have color, and you have class that is determined quite often by color. Whether or not they make political statements, these facts are the basic facts of their experience, and these are the facts upon which most of their books are built.
I would be right, wouldn't I, in thinking that you personally are particularly concerned with political themes?
Yes, I am, because I find it impossible to distinguish between what you call human destiny in 1960 and political decisions. By politics, I don't mean the party or the specific ideology, or the professional politician. Politics for me includes the teacher and the technician and the poet. What I mean by politics is a collective enterprise by people who have been given an opportunity for the first time to build a society the way they want to build it. What we are witnessing today is the resurrection of 2/3 of the world's population who had been as dumb as dirt for 2,000 years. The problems that we are involved are reciprocal. On the one hand, you have the 2/3 who, for the first time in their experience, have had to deal with responsibility from which they had always been deprived. On the other hand, you have this small group who had organized their lives, for the first time becoming aware of the fact that a privilege that they had always assumed is gone. You belong to that group. I belong to the other. And what I am basically concerned with, what I think it is my duty to do, is to try in some way, and this is a political act, to help chart the kinds of relations that will exist between you and me in the future, to help chart in some kind of way the legacy which your child and my child will have, and upon which they will build their own decisions.
What a fascinating, fascinating exchange there on the program. Monitor from 1960, he was 33 years old then, now the late George Lamming. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thanks to my producer, Nadia Foster, technical director, Anderson Nurse, sound, Michael Sobers at Master Control, Tamisha Green, and Pearson Bowen. Looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.